Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I love music. I worked in radio for a long time as a disc jockey. I played music. I worked a bunch of different formats. I played country music. I played oldies. I played the rock and roll. I played the adult contemporary. I played what they call contemporary hit radio. So I played a lot of different kinds of music, but I've always had big music collections. When I was a little kid, I used to buy records in the form of 45s. For those of you who don't know what that is, here's a 45 that actually someone sent in to me after I talked about music. This is the Billy Ocean single, When the Going Gets Tough, the Tough Get Going. And that's a 45 right there, my friends. One song per side, the A side and the B side. And, in the old days, you bought this, you owned this, and you had it. You'd play it until it got all scraped up and possibly scratched and wouldn't play anymore. But you owned it. You actually owned a physical thing with the music on it. So that's evolved over time, of course. Later on, the LPs became more popular. Then, of course, the CDs, and they had DAT, and they had all kinds of different things. But now it's to the point where if you want to buy music, you can still go buy the vinyl. The hipsters buy the vinyl. But I haven't even got a turntable anymore. So I still got a few records, but I hang on to them for sentimental reasons. And, of course, the Billy Ocean I hang on to just when the going gets tough. The tough get going. So the thing is that nowadays for music, if you like music and you want to buy music, you can download it. And there's different places that download music. So I will admit, I do not use Apple. I use Amazon. I have Amazon Prime, and as part of that, I get to listen to music. And then if I want to, I can buy music. But one of the weird things about it is that if I buy the song, I can listen to the song on a bunch of my different devices without ever downloading it. And that always bugged me because, I like to go running, for instance, and I put together playlists that I run to. And I like to have the songs on the phone because it bugs me that I'd be streaming it while I'm running. It seems like a waste of bandwidth. But also, I just like to think that somehow I've got a copy of the song myself. And so you might say, but Steve, that's just a real weird phobia to have. What could possibly go wrong? Keith and Greg sent me the story. From AppleInsider.com, man sues Apple for terminating his Apple ID with $24,000 worth of content attached to it. So that's the question, is what would happen if Amazon, for instance, decided, Steve, we don't want you having that music anymore for whatever reason. And so one of the other weird things about it, too, is that with Amazon Prime, I'm allowed to listen to some music for free, not all. And so I'll often be looking at a song going, I want to buy this song. And it'll say, why do you want to buy it? You can just listen to it for free with Amazon Prime. And it's like, well, I'd like to download it and have a copy myself and have it on my different devices. And I like to think that I've got the song. And I understand it's such a fine distinction. But Mike Peterson wrote this article. Apple's been sued with a lawsuit alleging that its media services terms and conditions which permit the company to terminate an Apple ID are unlawful and unconscionable. And the terms and conditions that go along with your internet presence, no one knows what they are because, you could if you wanted to, but there's these big, long documents that you e-sign when you get into something like this. And most people just scroll to the bottom, hit click and enter, and yes, I'm good, and move on to their lives. And most people don't run into this problem where they have had their account canceled. So the complaint filed on Tuesday in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California goes after an Apple Services clause that states a user with a terminated Apple ID cannot access media content that they've purchased. So you buy the product, and then something happens with your Apple service. They disconnect your Apple service, and you lose the stuff that you've purchased. Now, we've talked before about the different concepts of ownership and property. And if I buy it from you, I own it. If you want it back, but you simply want to let me use it for a while, I would be leasing it from you or renting it from you, I guess, depending on the product. And so the idea that they tell you you've bought it, we're selling you this, you own it. The fact that they then later say, oh, now you've lost access to it, therefore, well, then you didn't buy it if they can just take it back from you without refunding your money. Through its terms and conditions, Apple retains the right to terminate an Apple ID. More than that, the lawsuit claims that Apple can terminate an account based on suspicion. And again, I'm not sure what kinds of things they'd be suspicious of, but the quote from the lawsuit says, Apple's unlawful and unconscionable clause as a prohibited de facto liquidated damages provision, which is triggered when Apple suspects its customers have breached its terms and conditions. So they're saying that, look, there's a clause that says we can terminate your account. So you think, well, they terminate my account, at least I still have all the stuff I bought, right? No, they say, no, you don't have that. So then what does it become where they terminate your account and they take your stuff back? So these guys are calling it a de facto liquidated damages provision. Additionally, the complaint claims that users with Apple devices will find their products substantially diminished in value if their Apple IDs are terminated, since they won't be able to access Apple services or purchase content. So I do not know enough about how Apple products work. I've got an Apple product right here. I've mentioned it before. I use an iPad as a timer on this channel. But apparently, if you lose your Apple ID and it reduces the functionality of what you can do with your Apple products, and they're saying it substantially diminishes the value of that product. So, if you buy something, you buy anything, you buy a widget, you've got the right to use it, do anything you want with it, not use it, sell it, so on and so forth, generally speaking. And so if you have an iPad and you somehow run afoul of the people at Apple and they reduce the functionality of what you can do with an iPad, the question is then, are they interfering with your property rights? That's the question. The plaintiff in this case spent nearly $25,000 on content attached to his ID. When Apple terminated his ID for an alleged violation of its terms and conditions, he lost access to all of that content. According to the complaint, the $25,000 worth of media included apps, in-app purchases, programs, platform extensions, and related services. He alleges that Apple prevents users from accessing unused funds attached to an Apple account as well. So, for instance, he had $7 in credits on his iTunes account, $7 in credit. So he says that he lost that $7. And obviously, the $7 is de minimis, as we say, de minimis. But he had $25,000 worth of other stuff on his account. Now, I know some people are going to say, wait a second, state $25,000 on his account. Well, that'll be easy enough to figure out. I mean, they'll be able to say, show us everything he bought and add it up. And you'd be surprised, I've looked before in my Amazon music player, and I can actually tell it to show me the songs I purchased in the order in which I purchased them. So I can look back and see like how many songs I've purchased, and they add up because you're buying them usually one or two at a time, or maybe a whole album. But you buy a song here and a song there, $1.29 or 99 cents or whatever it might be. But it adds up over time. That's one of the things that's beautiful about the business model. They know that. They know that they can just nickel and dime you, and you don't even notice how much money you're spending with them. So before you know it, it starts out as a $7 iTunes credit and becomes $25,000 worth of media. The lawsuit doesn't specify why the man's account was terminated. However, it does claim that Apple shut down the Apple ID without notice, explanation, policy, or process. And you would think that if you're paying for something and they cut you off, that they should at least tell you why and give you a chance to defend yourself or argue it. Now, that, of course, is more of a contractual issue because this isn't the government we're dealing with here, it's Apple. So there's not quite the same due process concept, but I think most people would agree that you should at least get that. We've all heard stories before where somebody got wrongfully accused of something in a setting that was private. And somebody thought somebody else did something. They looked into it. Turns out they didn't do it. It'd be interesting to see what the allegation here is and whether or not it's something that he actually did, how egregious it was. And then that gets us back to, but shouldn't he get his $25,000 worth of stuff back? So it goes on to claim regarding the lawsuit that Apple's conduct, specifically the clause and resulting terminations, are unfair, unlawful, fraudulent, and illegal, and alleges that Apple is in violation of several consumer regulations in California. And of course, that would be a great phrase for Jackie Childs. Unfair, unlawful, fraudulent, and illegal. The lawsuit is seeking class action status with a nationwide class consisting of people in the U.S. who've had their Apple IDs terminated. Asked for a jury trial seeking a permanent injunction barring Apple from engaging in the allegedly unlawful behavior, restitution of funds lost during account termination, damages, and attorney fees. So, that's one of those strange things that started going back to the beginning of computers, before the internet, computers. And I remember the first few computers I bought, and you buy a computer, And it comes with a bunch of stuff, including like, Windows and Word. And I'm talking about things that you buy. You buy these programs for your computer. So you bought the computer, you bought the programs, and every single one of the programs would come with a big disclaimer. And the early ones, I mean, it's ironic that I can talk now about the early days of computers to indicate how old I am. But the earliest versions of some of these programs came with a stack of floppy disks. And they'd actually say, here's 10 floppy disks so you can load Word onto your computer. And it would say, insert disk number 1. And you put the disk in, and you hear it clicking away, clicking away, clicking away. And the little sign would come up and say, insert disk 2. You pop out the first disk, you put in the second disk. 5 minutes later, insert disk 3. Okay? But somewhere in there, either on the screen or on the box, was just this monstrous legal document. And one of the things that was always in there was, you don't own this program. You do not own this program. You are licensed to use the program. And the licenses back then, it would actually say, you're licensed to use it, so long as you don't violate the license, in essence, forever. And, the funny part is, of course, that the floppy disk-based program is not terribly usable these days. I understand you could get a computer with a 3.5-inch drive and run them if you wanted to. Why would you want to? But the point is that they were licensing it to you. So you can buy something, you can rent something, or you can license it. Okay, and that's a slightly different topic. And I remember reading these licenses, and it's all this stuff that you can and cannot do, but you get to use this program. And then, of course, the problem they had was people would take those 10 floppy disks, knock off copies, and give the stack to their friends. And so they started putting ID keys on them and so on, and all kinds of other stuff. Now, the insidious thing is that some of these companies have discovered that if you license something really valuable to somebody, if it's really valuable, you can often talk them into paying a fee for the license. That's not just a flat upfront fee, but a monthly fee. So for instance, I've mentioned before, I edit these videos in Adobe Premiere. And in the old days, you could license stuff from Adobe, like PageMaker. You could license it from them, and you got to use it. And then, somewhere along the line, you might want to buy an updated version or license an updated version. But the point is that you'd get the license and you'd use it. Now you get the license and you pay a monthly fee. Just more money. So getting back to the music, I'm sure if you read this agreement buried in there somewhere, it's going to say, well, we're not selling you the music, we're licensing it to you, or some such. But it's one thing to have that buried deep in the terms of something. But I know that when you go to the website and you see a song you want to buy, it says buy. At least it does on Amazon. And if it says buy, most people understand the idea that I buy something, you sell me something. Once I buy it, I own it. And so it seems to me that if I dropped 99 cents on the digital version of When the Going Gets Tough, the tough get going, that I would own it the same way I would own this 45 back in the day. Meaning that I might wear it out. I might play the song on my computer so many times that the computer crashes. And somewhere down the road, who knows? I might get some other devices. I might lose my account. I might change my account to the other provider of music. But the point is that I own that, and someone else can't take it from me because I sunk 99 cents into that. So it seems really trivial when you simply talk about one song or two songs, but $24,000 or $25,000 worth of songs, yeah. But it seems extreme. But that's very possible. That is very possible. If you simply go back and look at all the stuff you've bought, because I'm assuming that the Apple ID concept doesn't just talk about the one device he's got now. It probably goes back to the beginning of when the guy got into computers and first started interacting with Apple. So we don't know what he's accused of that would cause them to terminate his account. And we also don't know much else about it and what their policies are. But it seems to me that if you sink that much money into something and you've got this agreement that says you're buying stuff from them, that they shouldn't be able to just say, oh, you know something, we have just unilaterally declared that you're in violation, therefore we're cutting you off and we're taking back all our stuff, because it ain't their stuff. It's his stuff. He paid for it. So there you go. Keith and Greg, thanks for sending it. And Mike Peterson wrote it for AppleInsider.com. Man sues Apple for terminating Apple ID that's got $24,000 worth of content associated with it. Questions or comments? Put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Not only do I not know what's going on, I wouldn't know what to do about it if I did.